Bitcoin crashed below 95K and it's falling like a rock. Jerome Powell, the ghost of Christmas past, spooked markets yesterday as he mentioned that inflation might be returning. 15 out of the 19 Fed officials said they expected inflation to rise. So what does this mean for you and your Bitcoin? Should you sell? Should you run for the exits? We'll cover that. But have you forgotten that Donald Trump announced his plans to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve if he was elected? Well, he was elected, and we're a month away from his inauguration. The question isn't if it will happen, but how. And the real question is, what does this mean for long-term price targets for Bitcoin? This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's break it down. What the heck happened to markets yesterday?
This is another buying opportunity in our view. 2024 has proven to be a year where the market's been strong and it has eluded many opportunities for sustained weakness. I know yesterday's pullback was really painful, but to us, I think the fundamental supporting stocks are intact, and I think it's a good opportunity for investors here.
The VIX exploded, but we all need to calm down a little bit. Bitcoin is up 120% year to date, and people are running for the exits. This is one of those days where I feel like Big Bro, where I have to tell you to just calm down and chill out. Yesterday, global markets crashed because of the hawkish words of one man, Jerome Powell, who said he anticipates the return of higher inflation. The S&P 500 is down over 3% after his remarks, and the bond market believes that we will actually see higher inflation prices. But as we see signs of inflation returning, let me pull you out of the weeds. Here are a few catalysts that I believe are going to drive Bitcoin's price to 500K and beyond.
If we do get a Bitcoin strategic reserve where the government is buying Bitcoin, and there's a bill from Senator Lummis that had the government buy 1 million Bitcoin, $200,000 Bitcoin is going to be looking quaint. You're going to be looking at $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 Bitcoin. It's just too big a story because governments all around the world would have to do it. When this initial idea was floated, I was somewhat skeptical of it, but over the months, it hasn't gone away. In fact, we continue to see leaders in the Trump administration suggest that they're open to it. I still think, maybe it's less than a 50% chance, but it's not zero. And again, if it happens, or if we start to see it happening in other countries, you're going to see, a rip up in Bitcoin that will make 2024 look pretty docile in comparison.
And based upon insider knowledge, information that you and I don't have apparently, a day one executive order for a strategic Bitcoin reserve seems like a lock at this point.
I also know Trump is looking at a day one executive order.
Sorry. Day one executive order for a Bitcoin reserve for the United States?
Yeah, but so I know that there's people looking at the Dollar Stabilization Act as it gives the president wide discrepancy to protect the dollar, and there's potential to use a day one executive order to purchase Bitcoin. It wouldn't be at the size and scale of 1 million coins, but it would be a significant position.
Yesterday, Jerome Powell was actually asked a question about whether the Federal Reserve can hold Bitcoin or not. And here's what he had to say.
Do you see any value or benefits in the U.S. government building a reserve of Bitcoin?
We're not allowed to own Bitcoin. The Federal Reserve Act says what we can own, and we're not looking for a law change. That's the kind of thing for Congress to consider, but we are not looking for a law change at the Fed.
I'm not sure if you saw this yesterday, but Senator Lummis actually said that she wants to allow the Fed the ability to own and hold Bitcoin.
What Chairman Powell was saying is they don't have the authority now to own Bitcoin. I want to give it to them. I want our federal government to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve that can help back the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency and then serve as a long-term savings account, thereby offsetting our national debt, which is over $36 trillion now.
This isn't a short-term trade. This is a long-term global catalyst for Bitcoin. The U.S. creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve is going to drive other foreign nations to adopt Bitcoin. And you know what else is going to drive foreign nations to adopt Bitcoin? A strong dollar. On December 19th, the dollar exploded past 108. And what does this mean for other countries? It means their dollar-denominated debt just became more expensive. So they technically owe the U.S. more money than they did just a few days ago. A strong dollar forces countries to buy assets like gold and like Bitcoin, which is growing faster than their debt payments to the U.S. People in other countries are urging their governments to consider Bitcoin. Like someone writing a letter to the Dutch government telling them to sell all of their gold reserves to buy Bitcoin because it's harder money. This is why El Salvador just ramped up their Bitcoin purchases from 1 a day to 11 Bitcoin just yesterday. This is why there's rumors that the United Arab Emirates already own 300 to 400,000 Bitcoin. This is the global game theory in motion. Here's a great tweet from David Bailey, CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. The question is not whether you want governments to own Bitcoin. That ship has already sailed. The question is, which government do you want to own Bitcoin? It's amazing that we're even talking about governments owning Bitcoin at all, because just 6 years ago, I distinctly remember people saying that the governments were going to ban Bitcoin. And now we're talking about how much Bitcoin the governments will buy and how many governments will buy Bitcoin.
Listen, I like Bitcoin for the same reason that the Chinese Communist government doesn't like Bitcoin. They don't like Bitcoin and they banned it because they can't control it. And it comes down to fundamentally, do you want the government in charge of everyone's money?
But here's the most amazing thing about Bitcoin. You as an individual have the same opportunity to buy this asset class at the same price and in the same way as governments, corporations, and countries all across the globe. This is revolutionary. Never have we been able to buy the same thing that the elites can get access to. And the most amazing thing about Bitcoin is that you can secure your Bitcoin with more power to protect you from large entities like the US government than they even have themselves. In order to utilize the full benefits of Bitcoin, you need to take self-custody of Bitcoin and own real Bitcoin. And this is why the Bitcoin Way exists. Members of their team will walk you through 100% self-custody, step by step, so you can remove all counterparty risk, stop sharing keys with third parties, and ensure you protect your generational wealth the right way. Go to thebitcoinway.com and schedule a free 30-minute meeting with one of their team members. I want to go back to this premise from the beginning of the video about how markets are spooked because of potentially higher inflation.
Investment is a job in itself. To figure out what to do with your money in order to beat inflation is something. There are professionals out there on Wall Street that have PhDs in finance, that have enormous computers, and they have enormous staffs of PhDs and master's degrees and math nerds that are crunching numbers and figuring out how to allocate your portfolio so that you can beat inflation. And guess what? The majority of them don't beat inflation. The majority of them can't beat inflation.
Money printing has caused everyday people to become financial experts, to save the money that they've already worked hard to earn. And that's why Bitcoiners believe Bitcoin is a revolutionary asset. No longer do you have to become a financial wizard to understand every single facet about how markets work. You can simply buy and hold Bitcoin and beat the rate of inflation by a wide margin. Here's what longtime macro analyst Michael Howell had to say about why he believes Bitcoin is such a special asset.
Clearly, with a money market fund, you know pretty much that you're going to get, if you redeem $100 today, you're going to get $100 tomorrow. With Bitcoin, it's not maybe as straightforward as that because you have, well, there's a lot more price volatility. But notwithstanding, if you believe that in the longer term, Bitcoin is going to appreciate in value, it's more likely to go up than not, then it ticks the box for being an asset that will hold its value in the medium term. And that's broadly how I see it. That's my attraction or the magnetic force that drew me to Bitcoin is that I think it is or has served to be a wonderful monetary inflation hedge. So if the US government decides it's going to run big deficits and monetizes those deficits and basically devalues credit money in the dollar, then Bitcoin seems to hold up pretty well. It's outpaced gold over the period. And although it's volatile, it's certainly an asset with clear value.
This is why on days like today, I encourage you to zoom out, to take a longer view and a longer approach to your time horizon for holding Bitcoin. What's your 2030 vision? Here's Kathy Woods.
This new asset class, or this component of a new asset class, Bitcoin, is going to reach 21 million units out there, 21 million Bitcoin out there at its peak, and no more from there on. Where are we now? We're already above 19.5 million units. And so if institutional investors are looking at this new asset class more seriously. And Bitcoin is really the first of its kind in a new asset class and will be, we believe, the biggest opportunity of them all. They must consider an allocation. And so supply demand, they're doing the arithmetic, and we see 1 million to 1.5 million by 2030, that the probability of that has increased because of institutional.
Don't overthink this. The longer you're in Bitcoin, the more you win in Bitcoin. If you hold Bitcoin for a year, your average probability of winning is 70%. For 2 years, it's 79%. For 3 years, it's 90%. For 4 years, it's 96%. And for 5 years, it's almost 99% that you will have more money in your Bitcoin than you did when you first invested. Even gamblers like Portnoy are starting to realize that you don't trade Bitcoin. You just set it and forget it.
gonna bet it and set it. I'm not trading. I'm just gonna hold it. I'm holding my Bitcoins. Have I bought more Bitcoin yet? No, we got 15 of them. So I got like 1.5 million Bitcoin.
At some point, we're all skeptics. And you know you're a hodler if this is your response to the price dropping right now. A great place to level up from denier to hater to skeptic to trader to investor to hodler and finally a maxi is by joining a bunch of other people who have been along that journey, like me, in Dallas, Texas, from April 3rd through April 6th. At the BitBlockBoom conference. Hear from some of the best minds and speakers in Bitcoin, like Parker Lewis, Marty Bent, Guy Swan, Bob Burnett, Gary Leland, and me. Get access to exclusive workshops on topics from buying your first Bitcoin to mining, and come join some of your favorite people at exclusive parties like the Saturday Casino Night. Go to BitBlockBoom.com and enter the promo code BBB25 for $100 off your all-inclusive ticket. That's BBB25 at BitBlockBoom.com. The conference is coming up faster than you realize, and I can't wait to meet you all. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.